might be the best clap that we've ever had
That was
all
pretty good.
together.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Chelsea, welcome.
Oh my gosh, we're already talking over each other. Jeez Louise. See, this is why people listen to the podcast. We're normal.
That's right.
Unedited, raw, coming at you. Go
I
ahead,
love it.
Ryan.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. It's great to be here.
So, just wanted to kind of touch base, obviously 2022 Ironman World Championship. You've had kind of, a really, is complicated the right word for 2023?
There have definitely been several highs and lows. I think when you're coming off, I thought when I, came off this big kind of victory and life moment in 2022, you think it's all up from here. And I've been in this game long enough that I should know better. That's not how this works. Sport doesn't owe you anything. Kona doesn't owe me anything. And, it kind of bothers me when people say like, oh, you really deserve to win. Like no one deserves anything. But this whole season has been about Kona and repeating in Kona. And the year has been challenging, but every single time I kind of had another speed bump, I would think it's fine. Like it's all about Kona. This is another growth opportunity. And all that really needs to happen is I need to get myself in a place to nail my big training block leading into world champs. And so despite a lot of the obstacles that I maybe faced, I remained optimistic for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, even backing up, after your world championship win, right? Then, through the course of the off season, one of the major kind of talking points was the New York Times article that you had come out, and you've been very open and transparent about your challenges. Like, I suppose one question is like, being the reigning world champion, like, did you feel any sense of like obligation or need to talk about that, to use your opportunity as to be able to have a platform to talk more openly about it?
I think I feel a sense of responsibility as a global citizen. And I come from a very service-minded family, and triathlon in particular at the professional level, long distance racing can be a very selfish pursuit. We train up to 30 plus hours a week. We're super tired. Everything is about optimizing performance. And that has always bothered me to a certain level because I feel like maybe I'm not giving back to my community in the way that I would like to. And I felt, a certain responsibility to help make things better for future generations, to leave the sport, women's sport, better than I found it. Like backing up even further, when I first found out I was pregnant, I had so much fear. That was one of my initial feelings when I found out that I was pregnant. I had so much fear about like telling my partners. And that's not what you should not what you should feel when when you find out that like you're gonna be welcoming a child into the world, especially like in our case, we wanted to get pregnant and we wanted to start a family. And I don't want other women to feel that. I want them to have maternity protection. I want them to like know their value, and I want their partners to know how valuable they are. And so I've tried to be really open and transparent about my experiences, with the hope that maybe other women won't have to kind of deal with the same things that I have.
And I mean, just in general, right? Like there's a reason why the phrase triathlon widow exists as nomenclature, right? Because, even, at an age group level, like if you're training really well for either a 70.3 or a full, like, I mean, it can be all consuming. And it is kind of that selfish pursuit, and it comes at a high toll and cost in a lot of ways. So, it's interesting to hear kind of that focus on service. Um, you know, from a familial background, kind of what is that service orientation that you had sort of growing up and kind of before your triathlon career?
Yeah. So my mom started med school when I was one and had my brother during med school and then kind of started practicing when I was 5 or 6. And so I've had a front row seat to seeing this amazing woman try to balance a super high level career and family. And, my dad was a high school teacher. My brother is a special tactics officer in the Air Force, and my husband is a trained firefighter. So, the people in my immediate circle are really passionate about serving others.
And I mean, I think it's an interesting pivot, right? Where you have, as a high level athlete, the opportunity to kind of give back to our own little community. And I think that's kind of like the interesting place to sort of operate in. Um, and we'll get back to sort of like some of the work that you're doing kind of in a moment. But I did want to sort of like dovetail through the 2023 season a little bit. So you had a really impressive result in Oceanside, and then um, really kind of I feel like the first big build of the year was really into Roth. And
Yeah. It's, what, it's
Eric was
been
there.
so, yeah, it's so funny. Man, I feel like I had some real near misses this year, and every single race that I entered was, maybe close to a world championship level field,
Mhm.
barring Oceanside, but Oceanside was still, stacked as ever. And I kind of, was open about my mental health struggles, kind of got my act together a few weeks before Oceanside. So I think I had maybe like 3 weeks of training leading into that. And it was a solid day, but, not lights out. I thought it was a great starting point to the year given my off season. And then picked up an injury leading into Ibiza. And so that was um, a real bummer of a day. That was, the first race on kind of a grand stage of the season, and then regrouped, got healthy, headed up to St. Moritz to do a big training block there. I had the best time training with my coach Dan Plews and Jan van Berkel, who's become a really dear friend. All of our families were up, in the Swiss Alps playing triathlon, and got myself in really good shape. And I think that I was on pace to go 8:15 through 25K of the marathon, maybe. I had started to have some stomach issues leading into Roth, but I just, as you do when you're close to an event, you don't think much of it. And that caught up to me during the race. My husband pulled me off the course at 32K, and we found out that I had E. coli when I got home. So it's tough to race a marathon when you have E. coli, unfortunately. So I went through this whole process of like figuring that out, repairing my gut, and started working with this new strength coach in Reno named Matt Pendola, who really helped me rebuild my body. I like lost a lot of weight and muscle with the whole E. coli situation. And next was Singapore, and I was third there, which was fine. I always want to win when I go to these things, but I wasn't perfect, and you have to be pretty close to perfect when you're racing fields like that. But again, I thought, okay, this is a solid result. I have 8 weeks till Kona. It's kind of perfect timing to be getting my shit together. And then I had like an awesome build leading into Kona. I was really excited about what that could look like for me, and picked up another injury 2 weeks out. So like, I think the last thing I ever want to do is make excuses and say the reason I didn't have, an insane race in Kona is because I got injured. But, you know, the thing about this game is that, and a talent, is staying healthy. It's not
Yeah.
like, it's not like an excuse. It's like I wasn't able to pull that off. I pushed the limits in training because I really wanted to see what was possible, and I went over that line. So I learned a lot. I had a ton of character building opportunities this year. I think my team and I learned a ton about what I can handle and how we'll approach things moving forward. So from that perspective, I feel like really good about the people that I work with. It's kind of the first time where I felt like I have this really professional, cohesive setup. So I'm super optimistic about the future. Of course, when you win a world title, the only result that is really, really fun is winning again. And that's a challenging place to be in, right? Like, that's a new level of pressure that I haven't experienced before, and something that I'm still learning to manage. But, that all being said, I am like proud of my performance in Kona. It wasn't what I wanted, but, someone said to me, one thing that makes a true champion is the ability to fight until the very end, even when the win has slipped out of your grasp. And so while it wasn't the result that we wanted, I think that it will be a career defining moment for me and really help, us pivot to this next phase of, preparing for Nice and taking on another season.
Chelsea,
Yeah.
I think that's the attitude you got to have. We see it, as journalists and media that are there at the races, we see it all too often where, and as athletes, obviously not professional athletes, but as athletes in the sport, we can relate with the disappointment that we feel when we're in a race and things aren't going the way that we hoped. But from an outsider looking in, we can always also see too the things that are kind of unfolding in the race that you guys necessarily don't know or thinking about when you're there. And it was really cool to see you just dig in that marathon and not give up. And I was inspired by a lot of performances that day, but I was particularly inspired by yours because of our friendship and our relationship, and running into Steve on the race course, and and all those things, right? And so you just can't ever give up. You just can't, because you don't know what's going to happen. Like, you just don't. And so it just kudos to you for that particular result, because you earned it. Like, you earned. It wasn't like the goal, but maybe the goal was just to go through that, ultimately to prove to yourself that no matter what, like, you can just dive in and just keep going and get to that finish line, and have that in your pain bank, for future use.
Absolutely. And I will say that Kona this year was so much harder than Kona last year. Last year I had this magical race where, you don't get those days very often, where you have the mind body connection and things come to you and the luck pendulum swings in your favor. It was kind of the opposite of that this year. And I think it would have been really easy to say, like, look, not having my day, my knee doesn't feel right, like, I'm going to jog it in, or I'm going to pull the plug. And I think maybe 6 months ago, I would have done that. But I've done a lot of work. My team has done a lot of work to help prepare me both, like, physically and mentally for this thing. And And it was, yeah, a real growth experience.
Yeah, and I mean, I think going back to sort of the point you made earlier about, really pushing your limits. I mean, this was a year where you absolutely had to in order to kind of have a result in Kona. Like, a woman went under 9 hours and didn't get a paycheck. Like, you had to absolutely be on the rivet, in order to kind of come through. And so, like, to still kind of like dig in at that point, like, that's mindset that's going to be mission critical, um at any world championship caliber race going forward.
Yeah, and I hope that, people are noticing how exceptional, how professional you have to be on the women's side. We are not messing around. I think that it used to be the situation where you could just time trial your way through this thing. It was a solo mission, and it is not that anymore. There are race dynamics. The swim is becoming even more important. You have to be just phenomenal across swim, bike, run, and you can't have a weakness anymore. But what a show, we're putting on for the fans.
Yeah, and particularly with the fact that you've got your own race now, which is
Yeah,
awesome. And it's 100% completely yours from a world championship, and so it brings a whole new level and all sorts of newness to what we were all used to, and we said it on the podcast a couple weeks ago where you know it was really cool to see the women show up to their day because they wanted it for a long time. And you see sometimes where somebody wants something and they strive for it and then they get it and they don't really, you find out really quick that they didn't really want it. But like the women truly wanted their own day because when they got it, they showed up and they rocked it. And it was really cool to see.
absolutely. And I know it has been controversial, and I see both sides to the argument, but the climate is evolving and we're getting more media attention, we're getting more resources, and I really believe in this idea that, like, if you build it, we will come. I think that the US women's open final got more viewership than the men's final, and we see what happened in Australia and New Zealand with the women's World Cup. They were packing stadiums. We just need the opportunity. And we need to have the spotlight. We need to have the course to ourselves so that, our race isn't, we don't have interference from, the men's professional side and the men's amateur side. We're often kind of caught in the middle of that. And when we do have our stage, we shine.
So post Kona, talk to us about that. What have you been up to? Like
Oh my
you've
gosh.
just gone through this, right? And then you get home and it's just like I can't imagine I mean, I was exhausted after Kona. Like I can't imagine what it would be like to be you and, you know, packing up the thousand things of luggage and going home and, all those things. What's that like? What's that been like?
Yeah, it was such an emotionally charged couple months leading into Kona. No stone was unturned in the prep, so we were really excited to have a break. My coach, Dr. Dan Plews, was racing Ironman California a week after Kona, so we decided to go hang out with his family and talk about triathlon for one more week. But unfortunately, I got some sort of flu and then a stomach bug. So I was basically like in bed for a week. I think when you kind of tax your body like you do in an Ironman, you're super vulnerable to getting sick. So that was a bummer. But we're finally home now, and it's been really great to just chill and get some family time, and then do some things on the other side of swimming, biking, and running that go into making this whole operation happen, like some sponsor obligations, and then also starting to think about next season and plan for that.
How much time do you take off? Do you what's your retro? I mean, obviously you were forced a little bit
Yeah.
more than normal, right? But generally speaking, are you I don't do anything for 2 weeks, 10 days, a week, 3 weeks? You get back into it. What's
Last
that
year I
usually
took a
look like?
lot. Last year I took a lot of time off. It took me a long time to get going again. I think I was feeling more excited to get back to work this time around, really motivated. So I probably would have done a little swim or jog or something that first week, but I got sick, so that forced me to rest. I think I took a total of 10 days off, and that would have really been difficult for me 5 or 6 years ago, but it's not as hard for me anymore because I have this other little person in my life who I really enjoy spending time with. And when I'm not training, I get to do her whole morning routine with her and do fun park dates and coffee dates. We have this great cafe in Reno, and she'll ask me if we can go on a date to get muffins. So that sort of thing, just kind of enjoying our home and the things we like to do here.
All right. So Chelsea, one of the reasons why, we were excited to have you on the podcast amongst many was, kind of going back to what you started earlier when having a conversation of the importance that you feel to give back to the community, this, selfish sport that we all do, and how that can be a little draining from us emotionally, and you've been very vocal about things throughout your career and being able to give back. And, Ryan talked a little bit about the New York Times article. And I got to be honest, my wife doesn't generally care about what's going on in my world because, she hears it all the time. But I remember the day when she saw your article on the New York Times, and she instantly became more interested in what I was doing from a work perspective because she instantly became a fan of you based on that article and the story that you told. And so I think, you're don't ever give up on that. Just I don't care if you get a lot of grief from some people about how open you are about things. I'm telling you right now, don't stop, right? Just keep being you, because people are out there and they're listening and they need to hear it. And it's fantastic. And one of the things that you're doing with your audience now is and you teamed up with Wahoo and Canyon, and we went to a press release in Kona about it, but you're working with an organization called And Mother. And we wanted to give you an opportunity to kind of talk about that and bring some light on it, and just what's going on there. Give us the inside scoop.
Yeah, well, that's so kind, Eric, and means a lot because, the being vulnerable and open about, the things that I navigate is certainly a double-edged sword and has opened me up to a lot of criticism. But on the other side of that is the connections that I've made, and I I I really feel a lot of camaraderie with um, with other moms in sport and beyond. And I think that the things that I have experienced are not unique to me. And what I have learned through navigating motherhood and then getting back to work is that this country is not really set up for us. I talked about some of the mental health struggles that I had postpartum, some of the feeding issues that my daughter had that were quite scary. I have a lot of, I am a middle class white woman, and I have a lot of resources. And it was seemingly impossible for me to get like a therapist on the phone, and it was really hard to find like the right help for my daughter. And I ended up paying out of pocket for a lot of these things and had to advocate for myself to this whole nother level that I had never experienced, like in the medical world. And childcare has been like so hard for us to find. We've gone through like, I don't know, I don't even want to get into it, but like essentially we made the family decision for my husband to leave his job this year because we couldn't find sustainable childcare. And that's a massive privilege, but I don't think that it should have to be that way. And Mother is this amazing organization that was founded by my college teammate, Alicia Montano. She's an Olympian, multiple time US champion in the 800 meters, the talent of a generation who did this op-ed with the New York Times several years ago called Dream Maternity. She helped expose, along with Allison Felix and Kara Goucher, she helped expose some of the shortfallings in the sponsorship shoe industry where these female athletes didn't have maternity protection. And her answer to this is And Mother. What they do is they give grants to postpartum female athletes. They advocate for legislative change to help with maternal rights and maternal health. They also work to get lactation stations and free childcare at races and events, and they consult with companies to help them develop maternity protection policies in their contracts. And I know that I'm like directly benefiting from some of this work. They've given grants to athletes like Gwen Jorgensen and Sarah True. I think all of your listeners will know who those amazing women are. And so much of the attention at the World Championships is about the bikes because they're really awesome and everyone wants to know what sort of equipment we're running on race day. And I thought, as defending champion, there's going to be a lot of attention on my beautiful Canyon SpeedMax CFR. And what if we can also talk about another cause beyond just what I'm going to be running on race day? Canyon has just been an incredible partner of mine. I'm so proud to work with them. They have really championed me as an athlete and a mother, and they were gracious enough to do this incredible paint job and also bring to life this sweepstakes with me where we will be giving away an identical bike to what I rode in Kona, and the proceeds raised through that will be going to And Mother. So it's been a really, really fun project. There's been so much work and love that has gone into it. I work with the artist, the painter at Canyon. Her name is Sina, and she is, if you look at the bike, you'll understand how talented she is. It's hand painted in this rainbow explosion design that we've named it, and I'm just really, really proud of that work.
So how's it going? I mean, so we're kind of closing up on the end, which is why we kind of wanted to jump on this and just do a final, like hopefully a big push for you. But do we know how much money has been raised so far? Is there a goal? Like, what are we talking here?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what the count is right now. And my whole vision with this was I'd like to, I don't, we are doing the sweepstakes to give, this money to And Mother, and, they can put that where they want it. But my vision was like, what if we could raise a few more grants for athletes? And so I think we're over 10K at this point, but I would, I'd be really happy if we could get it up to at least 15K. And, that would be, I think, like 3 more of these change maker grants.
That's awesome. Well, I'm going to get on and actually donate today. Ryan, you going to donate?
Thanks, Eric.
Definitely.
And then if we win, if Ryan and I win somehow, which we probably won't, but if we do, we're going to re-auction it again, just for shits and giggles.
Well, that would be cool. Yeah, we have this really great program where you
Watch,
can donate as
watch.
much.
Now we we actually like win, and there's going to be like some conspiracy theory about how it was like a rigged thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, it'll be like a random drawing. The really great thing is that you can enter as little or as much as you want. So you can enter $1, and that gives you one entry. Or Eric, you could enter. Slowtwitch could enter submit $5,000, and that would give you 5,000 entries, and the odds would be good.
It's a business write-off and a charitable donation. It's so many things.
Uh,
So Chelsea, what's next for you?
yeah, I'm really excited about next season. We're still we're still in the planning phase, but I'm hoping to get started quite early with the year. I want to have some fun before like really hitting it hard in April or so. There will be, lots of great racing opportunities next season with the new Ironman series and then of course the PTO. So there will be no shortage of high level opportunities.
I know. What are you going to do? Like, some big decisions going
I
on in
know
your
it
world
is
right
it
now.
is a big decision, and I think it's really easy to get caught up in it all and to overcommit, but I think moving forward, as it has been the last couple of years, my focus will be the Ironman World Championships. That's what really inspires me. That's what fires me up. And so we'll build the season backwards from there to have my best possible day in Nice. And I am getting so excited about Nice. I wasn't really sure how I felt about racing there originally, but after watching the men's race, and then kind of thinking about this new challenge and all of the skills that will come into it, I'm getting really, really excited about it.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's going to be way cool. We weren't able to go to Nice this year just because poor Ryan got sick with the COVID before
Oh
he was supposed to
no.
go over there. But we will be in Nice this year, and we'll also be in Kona this year. Um, but Chelsea, thanks so much for taking the time to come ramble with these two guys on this podcast and all of our slow Twitcher listeners. That care about bikes a great deal. And so they better pony up and show their care for bikes by trying to get this one. Everybody, we will have an article up. You'll probably see this on the homepage. There will be links in the description on this podcast of where you can go to find out more information, not only about Chelsea, but also Ann Mother. And everything closes pretty soon. So you got a couple of days. You got to listen to the podcast. You got to read the article, and you got to act soon if you want a chance to win her Canyon bike. So, Chelsea, thanks again. We appreciate you being on the podcast.
Thanks so much, guys. It's been a real pleasure. And yeah.
Thanks, Chelsea.